and the dealer's den for hours. Some people come here and they're just here for the dances at the end of the day. That's absolutely fine. These are just kind of some really good general guidelines to be able to think about when you are coming to your furry convention, if this is your first one, right? So obviously this is where a lot of us are when you first get here. I've been in the fandom for, oh God, at least 25 years. And I have not met a furry who is so gung-ho about going out to a convention and meeting a ton of people and going out dancing everywhere and doing a bunch of stuff. There's always some little bit of reservation anxiety, and that's okay. Everyone here understands for the most part, and so as long as you're really respectable, generally you're not going to have too much of an issue, okay? So the big thing is that when you get here, you're wanting to prepare to enjoy yourself. So first thing you should be doing when you get to a convention like this is you want to make sure you're getting yourself comfortable. You want to make sure that you're getting yourself set up into your room. Make sure that you have all your stuff there. At that same time, also check everything in your room to make sure it's working and to make sure that you don't have any sort of possible problems in the room. Because as soon as you get here, you want to make sure that's good, because then at the end of the day, when you're done having fun down here with the convention, you go back upstairs, you're not having to worry about all of that, okay? Get an idea of the convention space. So right now we are in main events. If you go onto the website, you will find the con book with the schedule. There's a map in there, okay? Please note, the schedule in the con book is not up to date. There is a schedule that is directly within the Golden State FurCon website that is up to date, okay? Unfortunately, the con book has to be pushed out a little bit earlier. Changes happen, we adjust, we want to make sure we're giving you what we can, okay? If you're ever curious about what is going on, where you need to be, or what needs to be going on, there is Events HQ right up by registration. You'll see a big banner for it. It's going to be a big table. There should be someone there. They're going to have a map. They're going to have a list of the panels, times, where everything is. That's going to be kind of your one-stop info kiosk, as if you were at like an amusement park or something. That's going to be what's really going to help you out, okay? Okay. So when you get an idea for what it is you're wanting to do, you get familiar with the con space. At that same time, kind of start planning what it is that you want to do and what you're looking for. There are a lot of panels that are going on of all varying types, okay? Especially tomorrow for Saturday being the busiest day of the convention, that's gonna be the one where you're gonna see a lot more activity throughout the day, and everything's gonna start overlapping at different intervals. Look at the schedule, get an idea of the con space so you know where you're going, about how long it will take you to get there. And then at that same time, start planning out what it is that you want to go check out, okay? Like right after opening ceremonies today, we started the Bobcat Railroad panel, right? And then half an hour later, you have my panel here, and then in a half an hour, there's another panel somewhere else. So depending on how the schedule goes, you want to make sure you get an idea ahead of time, because you can better plan out then, okay, I want to go here, and I know this is up in this location. I want to go here. This is in this location. Gives you an idea of what you're doing and where you're looking at, okay? Couple hidden rules when it comes to a convention. First big one is what we call our 6-2-1 rule. When you're at a convention, the big thing is to make sure that you're not only taking care of yourself, or I'm sorry, not only that you're having a good time, but that you're also taking care of yourself, okay? That, in turn, leads to your convention being an easier time. 6 hours of sleep, 2 meals, 1 shower. It sounds kind of simple, but it does happen sometimes. People forget. We recommend 6 hours of sleep to make sure you have plenty of energy. As much as we know that you want to stay up till 3 a.m. or just stay up all night partying and then going into the next day, please make sure you get sleep, because that's going to be a big factor on how you're doing, okay? Make sure you're getting at least 2 meals, and good solid meals, not like a bag of chips. Okay, get like a sandwich, bag of chips, and a Coke, right? Got to make sure you're keeping yourself well energized. Make sure you have the stuff for your body so that way you're able to survive throughout the day. And then, of course, 1 shower. There's a lot of individuals here. Body heat radiates off, people are gonna sweat, things are gonna get hot, right? We try to keep everywhere as cool as possible, but unfortunately that's not always the easiest. So if you're making sure that you take a shower, you are then helping to make sure no one else has to worry about smelling you, because at the same time, you don't want to be that person standing there and smelling anyone else. It doesn't always work out. It's never a good time, okay? Always have water with you, right? That's going to be the big thing, is making sure you're staying hydrated, especially if you're in suit. If you ever go to do anything in suit, please make sure you have been hydrating well beforehand. A lot of our panel rooms, you'll see they have stations like the one right back over here with cups and ice cold water. Please make sure you are keeping yourself well hydrated. That is probably one of the biggest concerns we have. Suits get very hot. We know you're having a good time. We want you to have a good time, but unfortunately, if you pass out and we have to call 911, that good time's not gonna be able to be all weekend, okay? That's the last thing any of us want to do or any of us want to have happen, okay? If you are not in suit, try to let those in suit onto the elevator first. We always recommend at least 3 up, and then if you're going down, 2 down, right? Unfortunately, right now, the elevators are the big way of getting between lobby to the lower lobby, and there's the 6 elevators that go up. Those are gonna be the only real way that we're really able to travel right now, because they're working on figuring out stuff with the escalators. Okay, unfortunately, the escalators currently are broken. So just try to remember that elevator etiquette, especially if you're gonna be getting onto the elevator. Give people a second to come off. If you're coming off the elevator, just try not to push through and try to force your way out, okay? Tip, 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 tip. No, not just the tip, okay? Tipping is in, there's a lot of conveniences around here where people are working hard. It's their everyday job, especially if you go out towards like the bar and the restaurants. Please just make sure you leave a nice tip. Doesn't need to be overly generous, right? Tip what you can afford if you're able to. If you're not able to, it's understandable. But we want to make sure we're taking care of the hotel staff and that we're being respectable, because they're helping to make sure that we are able to put this on and that this is actually able to be a successful convention, okay? Explore the surrounding area for food and drink. So on the mention of tipping, hotels are expensive. That's just a fact. The fact that I spent $20 last night for a single beer is a little bit nuts. That's gonna happen here at the hotel. If you really wanna get something to eat or drink and you have time, definitely go off site of the hotel. Try to see if you can find stuff nearby. LA has a ton of really great cuisine options. I'm local SoCal, love LA, mostly just because I like coming here for the food. So I can tell you right now, there's a lot of good food options. Just definitely take your time looking around. Read the reviews. Reviews actually around here are pretty generous in how honest they can be. And it'll actually give you a fairly good idea, okay? And then business cards. So if you have any sort of business cards, some furs like to carry around like a business card or something with some sort of quick information for their social media handles, things like that. If you have that, that is gonna be the easiest way to share information. You'll see, I think it's either right out here by main events or up by registration. There'll be like a big black A-frame with a bunch of slots for business cards and stickers and things like that. That's the best way to share around your information if you're trying to get people to find you without having to worry about being too interactive, okay? Okay, so for fursuiters here, there's some tricks here about what you're thinking of if you're suiting or if you are not suiting. Now, when we refer to suiting, we're not just referring to someone who is in full suit. This includes partial suit with just paws and tail and a head. Doesn't need to be full suit at all, okay? If you are suiting, please make sure, and I'm gonna emphasize it several times, make sure you are hydrating. You are drinking plenty of water. You are getting that liquid into you, because that is going to be the thing that is really going to keep you going and help to make sure you're staying safe, okay? As fun as it is to be suiting, and we know this is a time for you to be able to walk around, show off your great suits, all of that. Everyone loves seeing them, photos, friends, everything like that. Please make sure you are taking breaks, okay? There's one fursuit lounge right across here from main events. Has a lot of fans in it. That's a nice big open room. Upstairs, there's another fursuit lounge over towards where the D&D room is and towards game room and VR, okay? Please make sure you are taking those breaks to make sure you're taking care of yourself. And while you're in there, please make sure you're monitoring your belongings and you don't forget them. You'd be surprised on how many different belongings end up in the lost and found because people just end up accidentally forgetting them in Fursuit Lounge. It happens. We make sure that the stuff gets back to everyone, but we want to make sure at the same time you're being safe with your things because not everyone's going to be super honest and full of integrity with what they need to, okay? If anyone comes to you, they should be asking you for a picture, to touch you, anything like that. Do not be afraid to say no. If you say no and they continue to push the issue, please find a staff member. I'm events lead. There's AV in here. You'll see ops walking around with their blue vests, okay? If someone is trying to be very pushy, please feel free to say no. And if they don't take no for an answer, then come find someone and we'll make sure that we can get everything resolved to make sure you're comfortable and that things get handled appropriately based on the situation, okay? That is where having a handler comes in if you are suiting. If you are suiting, you want to have one ideally. If you don't know what a handler is, it's someone who's going to be walking with the suitor, kind of helping to make sure they can see where they're going, they know where they're going, and kind of helping to navigate, right? If you're in a suit, it's really hard to see everything. Your vision becomes very tiny, very restricted, and that's where a handler really comes and help, and that's going to be what's going to help you along the way, okay? And it's going to help with those types of situations as well, okay? That handler then will also be the person who can help carry your stuff and to help make sure that your badge is easily visible. When you're in suit, we do understand that you are having a bunch of stuff on you and it's not always the easiest, but when you are in suit, you are still responsible for making sure your badge is on you and visible. That way, if at any point you try to go into a convention space, we can verify that you are an attendee and that you are allowed to be in there, okay? So please just make sure that badge is visible at all times. It does get turned around, it does get twisted, it does get kind of thrown around, may not be easily visible right away, but as long as it's readily available and easily visible or easy to get access to, you should be okay, okay? For anyone who is not in suit, drink water. Drink water, drink water, drink water, drink water, drink water, drink water, drink water. I don't care who you are, I don't care if you're in suit, out of suit, jumping out of suit, jumping into suit, running from suit, running into suit, whatever it is, drink water, okay? That's gonna be the big thing. I'll probably say it a few more times. You're gonna be sick of it, I'm sorry. Don't drown yourself, but make sure you drink water, okay? If you are someone who is not in suit and you go up to someone who is in suit, please make sure you're being respectful of their boundaries and of their presence because obviously they may not see you. You don't want to just run up to someone, try to hug them from behind, try to touch them from behind, right? Or even to the side of them because they may not see you. Okay, we don't want to do anything that can cause anyone any sort of anxiety, trigger anything, or have any sort of issues that may arise. So if you go up to someone who's in suit, please make sure you're being respectful, loud. If you're coming up behind them, you don't want to bump into them, right? Just kind of hold your hand out, hey, behind, as you're walking by. That's going to work a little bit better than just kind of try to navigate around them and then something happens and you end up bumping into them, all right? Okay, elevators, like we were saying, make sure suit wearers have priority. That's going to be the big thing because those who are in suit going onto the elevators, they're probably going upstairs to get out of suit. They're probably hot, they're tired, sweaty. We want them to be able to get up so that way they can get off their suit to not only take a shower, but to make sure they're able to properly take care of their suits. Those of you who do have suits, you put a lot of money into them. They're very valuable, right? They're one of a kind 99% of the time. It's one of those things where we don't want that to get damaged. So we need to do what we can as attendees and goers who aren't in suit to help them to get up faster so they can get out of their suit, okay? And obviously, if you're not in suit, if someone is in suit and they say no, please respect it. Do not bother them. Do not push it. It can be considered harassment, all right? Okay. Once again, make sure you are drinking water. Drink water, 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 drink water. I don't care if you're drinking Gatorade water. I don't care if you're drinking flavored water. I don't care if you're drinking sparkling water. I don't care if you're drinking flat water. Drink water, please. Okay? Make sure you have snacks. Hotel gets pricey. All right? So the one thing I always recommend is 2 things to make sure that you're having when you get here. Snacks, any sort of food snacks you may want, whether it's like bags of chips or anything like that. And then for those of you who are 21 or older, alcohol. If you're planning on doing a party with your friends one night, I would recommend making sure you have that stuff ready, because once you get here, not only are the parking spaces down there valuable, but they're also hard to get back. LA can be a real pain in the butt to drive around. I would know. I've done it way too many times. No, I'm not used to it yet. No, I don't enjoy it. Dear God, the traffic here is awful. Please save yourself a headache and bring your stuff with you before you get your initial parking space, okay? Also, because then, yes, the hotel has a lot of good options here, right? I'm over 21. I like going and having myself a good gin martini. Hotel has some good options. But I don't exactly feel like paying 20 bucks every time I want to go have a drink, okay? So please make sure if you are of age, you have your ID on you in case you do go to the bar, or if you are planning to have any drinks, just try to bring it ahead of time in case. It helps save some money, helps out a lot, okay? Oh, how many of you have a spending problem with the dealer's den? Oh, just me? Okay, that's fine. If you go down to the dealer's den, just try to give yourself a spending limit. I usually recommend to people, if you're going down and you're going to do a big shopping thing, just kind of bring some cash. That gives yourself a limit. Credit cards, sorry, I'm a science teacher. I'm a big science nerd. Credit cards, things like that, plastic has been proven to have actual cognitive disassociation with what actual you have available. So if you do cash, you give yourself a hard limit, it's going to be a lot harder for you to go over what you give yourself, okay? Of course, ask permission. We've talked about that. Generally, everyone around here is pretty understandable, right? You see someone, if you're unaware of their pronouns, be respectful and ask if you're going to go on a prolonged conversation. It's not hard. It's just going up and saying, hey, sorry, but what are your pronouns? Hey, what are your preferred? Just to make sure you're being respectful. We have individuals of every different type of community here. And so we want to make sure that they feel welcomed and understand, because this is supposed to be a safe space for our community. This is supposed to be a safe space for people to come to have a good time. So we want to make sure that those people are feeling safe. All right? So you do your first con. You come back next year. You're thinking, okay, what should I be doing before con? Right? You got here. You're thinking, okay, I had a great time. I want to go next year. What should I be thinking about doing beforehand? First thing you want to think of is you need to think of a list of what you need, okay? Toiletries, medications, chargers, whatever it may be, okay? Yes, there are items on there like condoms and birth control. We get it. There are individuals who are of age to be consensual. Please make sure anything happens, it is consensual. Okay, consensual is sexy. We like consent, okay? Make sure you're checking the weather ahead of time, right? So like LA right now, it's a little warmer than what it normally would be about this time. It's a little weird. I wish I could tell you, California kind of just decides whatever it wants to do with itself half the time for the weather. So try to check ahead of time to see if you're able to actually see what the weather is so you can try to plan about that, okay? Figure out how exactly it is you want to travel. Some people are very particular, right? If you are absolutely terrified of planes, don't take a plane. Makes sense. But if you're okay with taking a plane, that's going to have a whole different effect on how it is you're going to be packing. Especially if you have a suit and you're flying plane, that's going to be a whole different sort of ball game you're going to have to go through, okay? If you are driving, bring a cooler. Or see if one of your friends has a cooler. That way if you land on the plane and they pick you up or something, right, you have a chance to get some drinks to put in there. We try our best to get it to where the rooms have fridges. Unfortunately, it's kind of out of our hands. We try to do our best to make sure all those amenities are there, but it's not always the easiest, okay? For any personal belongings you have that are of any sort of value to you, please put a name and some sort of contact information. Operations will get badges, we'll get random knickknacks, pins, things like that, and we have no idea who they belong to, and no one comes and claims them, so then we hold on to them, and we hope someone comes and gets them in a future convention, okay? If you put your information on there, it's easier for us to help make sure that we can get you what you need, okay? Before you get here, start getting an idea of the schedule. Start planning your stuff ahead of time. If you're able to start looking and saying, these are the panels I want to attend, then you can start maybe talking with some friends, figuring out what you want to do. Maybe you want to go off-site and go check out some of the local attractions, go nearby. I know Disney and stuff's nearby. Some people love going to try to do that. So when you get to plan out your days ahead of time, it gives you a lot more freedom and flexibility, okay? When you book your hotels, this is probably the biggest one that a lot of people always have issues with at the start. Confirm your hotel information a few weeks beforehand and make sure you book your rooms early. The convention company AEI is really good about making sure that the information gets put out when, hey, hotel rooms are available, make sure you sign up, use this code, you get special discounts. They're really good about getting that information out, but it does fill up quickly. So it's one of those things where if you're gonna be trying to get a room at the hotel, you need to try to keep an eye out to do it as quickly as possible, and then verify beforehand. Unfortunately, it happens. There may be mistakes. That's not a bad thing. Everyone is just trying to do their jobs as effectively as possible. Sometimes information gets mixed up, or maybe you need to upgrade your room or something happens to where someone's not able to make it, right? So it's always good to have an idea of what that information is ahead of time, just in case. For your traveling, this is all personal dependent. I have done both of these, so these are things that I have figured out along my way. It's gonna be based on you, honestly. If you're someone who loves to travel with road trips and you have an RV and all this stuff set up, right? It's gonna be a lot different than someone who's gonna be trying to fly. If you're driving, it does take a little bit longer and you wanna make sure your vehicle is in good condition, okay? Ooh, I'm sorry. When you do your driving too, depending on the length, you may want to double check for rest stops. I've driven out to Denver and there's a good stretch between Nevada, or about halfway in the middle of Nevada and near the end of the state line, where there's not a lot of rest stops. So it's one of those things where if you weren't aware of that beforehand, and you really need to go to the bathroom, and you didn't stop at that last one, you're probably gonna be waiting for a little bit. So if you're gonna be driving, make sure you double check the routes for rest stops, things like that, okay? At that same time, make sure that you are accounting for any sort of money that you may have to spend or any sort of traffic, right? Conventions already tend to get a little bit expensive as they can be. Now you're gonna have to add gas money onto that, and it's gonna vary on state to state. I've lived here all my life. God, I wish we could get below $4 a gallon of gas, right? I would much rather drive into Arizona where it's $3 or $2.50 where you're at, but you know, that's one of those things you gotta plan for. Different states have different taxes and things that varies the price, okay? And then the two things that are really good here, some people don't think about. One, make sure your insurance is up to date, is current. Make sure you have an updated copy easily available just in case for any reason. And then be realistic with the trip, okay? From here to Colorado, it takes about a 26-hour drive. Am I gonna make the drive in 26 hours? God, no. Probably gonna take me about 2 days, right? So you need to be able to plan for that. Flying, on the other hand, when you go to do all the stuff for flying, All the issues with driving are pretty much out the window, except for one, and that's your luggage. Unfortunately, nowadays, luggage gets expensive to put on, so you need to make sure your bag is allowed. You need to make sure you're preparing for baggage fees just in case. Anything that can or cannot be allowed for boarding luggage, okay? Make sure your ticket is good. You definitely need to be doing that, especially now because there's so many issues going on with the airports. Make sure your ticket information is verified and good to go before you leave anywhere, and make sure you give yourself plenty of time. Usually before, I think it was 2 to 3 hours you want to show up ahead of time. Right now, with the way the airports are, you're wanting to estimate 4 to 5 hours before your flight, okay? So that definitely goes around with that idea of making sure you arrive early. For anything that you consider highly valuable, I would very much make sure you do not put that in any sort of bag that may get thrown around easily, right? So for example, I have my Steam Deck. I love my Steam Deck. I play games too much. It's not something I would just put randomly into a bag that's going to get thrown onto a plane, okay? Uh-oh. Okay, I think that is it. Okay, yeah, so not too many here, really easy, quick to go through. Do I have any questions about anything involving your convention or what to expect, how to plan for things, what you're looking at? Any sort of questions at all? Okay, I'm Chris, I'm one of the events leads. You're gonna be seeing me running around most of the weekend. I'll have my Angels cap on probably. So if you see me, just feel free to grab me, come by and say hi. If you got questions, feel free to ask, okay? Thank you guys, I hope you enjoy your convention.